Hi, my name is Tim Kitzman, and I would like to begin a series of instructional videos on how to show people at home how to produce and make high-quality baked goods as a professional would. All right. The goal of this show is to be able to teach you, show you the techniques, and also show you what things you can do at home to be able to produce wonderful, wonderful artisan breads and baked goods in general. I've been baking for approximately 25 years in the industry, and I've worked at the very, very small bakeries. I actually worked on a farm that baked bread on a wood-fired oven, all the way up to the large industrial bakeries working on long, long production lines that produced thousands and thousands of bread. And I would like to show you and kind of blend together how you can kind of take from every aspect of what the baking industry is and be able to create some of these breads and some of these products that you see in the stores or that you see at your local bakery on the artisan side. It's not that difficult. We would be able to do this over a series of videos, and I want to try to concentrate each video and each part of this to be able to be instructional so that you can actually learn what it is that's necessary to do this, and that in doing so it's educational, and that it's a way for you to be able to rely on yourself to not only recreate what it is that I want to show you, but also to create on your own. You'll be able to learn how to do a little bit of ingredient substitutions and changes, and then have your own creative ideas to produce any of the breads or any of the baked goods that we are going to show you. Throughout this series of instructional videos, what I also want to do is be able to teach about the ingredients, and the ingredients that both you can buy in the grocery store and the ingredients that you'll see on labels, and so that you're more conscientious of what it is that you want to find that maybe be on the healthier side if that's your goal. You'll see that I'll talk very specifically about clean ingredients or organic ingredients or what we call non-clean ingredients. Having the opportunity to be a formulator for many, actually many lines that are in the grocery stores, there are certain ingredients that personally I would stay away from, that you would not want to consume. And then also the ones that you can look out for, because when you do read the labels, they are not necessarily clear, because some do show themselves to maybe look like they're not clean, but then they are clean. But overall, actually, there are on websites that you can find from Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, Publix, Kroger, most of the good grocery stores and restaurants, even Panera. They put out what's called their so-called no-no list, and what it is it shows ingredients that they would not put in their foods. All right, so that's a good lead also. I will go through some of those ingredients as we do this, and then when you go to the grocery store, what brands and what products that you can buy for ingredients, as well as just mentioning a handful of good products that are actually made, fully baked products, meaning good breads and good pastries that are out in the industry, so that if you can't do this at home, that you can at least make good choices when you're at the grocery store. Of the many reasons to make your own products at home is that it also gives you a sense of pride, because when you do learn how to make these things, and you've seen that you can be able to do this honestly from 3 ingredients. You can take just flour, water, and salt, and then have a natural leaven, which I'll show you how to make, that you can make absolutely fantastic breads and not only make yourself feel good about it, but maybe friends, family, and such. So it also is guaranteeing you that the product that you're going to eat, the food that you're going to eat, are from the ingredients that you had. So just as you cook at home, to be able to make the breads and stuff that you want to buy at the grocery store, you can do it at home as well. And it's always a good trait to learn. Before we begin doing anything, as far as learning how to actually make any of the products, we're going to have to go through some of the utensils and some of the pieces of equipment that are going to be necessary to actually make some of these professional looking products. A handful of the product or pieces of equipment you need are in front of me right here, which I'd like to go through. Probably the most essential in any bakery is going to be having a very good scale and a very good oven. Okay, mixing is also an essential piece. A mixer is an essential piece of equipment as well. But you'd be able to use both either a KitchenAid type mixer or more so your hands. And when we're doing these small batches, doing it by hand will be of no consequence. But to begin with, the scale, and I would suggest investing in, it doesn't have to be a large investment, maybe $30, $40, $50. They can go up very expensive, up to $200, $300. It's not necessary, but something that can scale in both grams and pounds and ounces would be very good, because a lot of formulas that you will see that are out there in books and such, plus what I'm going to show you, are going to be mostly in multiple different units of measure. All right, this scale was, I think, about $40. It's very nice. It's got a little stainless steel plate, and it's going to be more than sufficient. Holds up to 22 pounds of weight, and you're going to want to have something that at least holds 10 pounds. Okay, so when you do look at this and you make a choice, please do so. The other is going to be like these are proofing baskets. They're called bannetons, and they're basically just wicker baskets that have a little couche line. Couche meaning a linen fabric that it rests inside. They're excellent for proofing breads, and it's also going to be very simple and easy that when you do use them and they proof, you can transfer it onto the baking stones without any issue. Okay, it's less handling, less damage to the bread when it's proofed. Very important to get. You also need just a bench scraper. This is just a very simple plastic bench scraper. It's going to be easy to divide the dough, and I'll also show you how you can use this, and I use it as my right hand when I'm shaping. I'll show you a couple of cool techniques on that. This is the razors. The lame is what it is, L-A-M-E, that the French call it. But what it is going to be the way that you're going to score the bread, okay? And you're going to want to have very sharp utensils to do so. All of these really don't cost much. I think this maybe was at most about $7 or $8. Found all of these online, not very difficult to do. A handful of just basically containers. I prefer glass and or non-BPA free or BPA free plastics, but this is just one that I started a sour culture in, and I will show you today how to begin that sour culture. It takes about a week to make, right? It's a good little piece though. And then the baking stones, all right? When I chose the baking stones, I was very particular on how the size of my oven was. My oven is 24 by 15 deep, 24 inches wide, 15 inches deep. And so what I did was, when I was online, I chose stones that were going to fit almost exactly in there. So you have a stone hearth. And then I also bought these smaller ones that I'm going to use as sidewall, which I'd like to show you. I'm going to, as we go along. All right. Okay, so we're going to set up the oven with the baking stones that I did purchase. And as I mentioned, it's about 24 inches wide, 15 inches deep. Most ovens are that way. So, I found these stones in particular when I was searching online. This is maybe the little bit more expensive part of the overall equipment purchase. It's about, I think I paid about $30 each for these. So, I was up around 60, and then maybe this may be about $20, okay? These are what I wanted to do for the side walls, and I'll show you that as we get into it, but they're pretty cool. They are 7 by 7, and they will show a good heat retention that's going to penetrate the side of the lobes, as well as these being at the bottom to create that hearth-baked bread that everybody's after. Yeah. All right, let's get this out of the way. Here we go on the big stones. This is the fun part. All right, now you see these are even considerably thicker than these. I was very specific in buying the thickest that I could find. I don't remember exactly the dimension of the thickness, but I think it's about a 3/4 inch thickness. Okay, but the more thickness that you get and the better type of stone that you buy, the better the heat retention when you are trying to warm this up. And that's where you're going to get the better oven spring and the better crust and color formation on the bread. All right. They can crack, so you have to be relatively gentle moving these. As well as when we heat the oven up, when we are going to bake, initially you're going to just kind of slowly and gently heat these up, because what they're trying to do is retain heat. If you force the heat on there too fast, too quick, it has a potential to crack them. But just in the beginning, once you start to use these, they do get, in a sense, seasoned, and that's not going to be an issue once we bake consistently. So, all right, excuse me. All right, so most ovens are the same, okay? Everybody's got pretty much the same oven at home. They're gonna go up to about 500 degrees, 550 degrees, but the most that we're probably ever gonna set it is between 450 to 500 degrees overall. All right, but we will take these stones, place them in lengthwise, okay? And if you can see, the depth there is going to be wide and deep enough to cover the entire length, all right? Even if there's a split here, the bread is still going to bake evenly across there. And in fact, I used to work on brick ovens that we would see creases all over from the brick. It's actually kind of cool looking by the time you're all done. These are going to be on the sidewalls. So what I'm going to do, place these. These are also the same depth, okay, on both sides. All right, and I have the top shelf here. What I'm going to do with this is I'm going to put a cast iron pot that's going to be on the top there. And what it's going to do is heat up, just like the retaining stones. It is going to hold the heat, and I'm going to put ice cubes in there. So once we lay the proof bread in here, we score, everything's already been heated up. I'm going to throw a couple ice cubes into the cast iron pot, and what it's going to do is kind of envelop the oven with steam, just as you would with a steam injected oven at the bakery. We're going to begin the very first day of creating a sourdough culture, what most would call either the sourdough, the mother, the levain. These are all terms that are used, the seed. What it is this is going to be what is going to be when you say naturally leavened breads. It is because you've created a sourdough culture, and that's going to take us about 5 or 6 days to create it at least stable enough to use, and also have the proper level of acidity. But then it's going to take probably another week of consistently going through what we call a feeding cycle for that to maintain itself and then kind of stabilize completely. So today all it is merely mixing flour and water and letting it do what it's supposed to do. So I'm just going to take a small little container. I've got this little guy right here. And on my scale, I've used grams most of the time. And so today it's in grams. When you put anything on the scale itself, you also need to make sure that you clear it, put it to 0. We call it tearing it. And so make sure after you do that, you tear it. So now it's at 0, all right? And all I'm going to do is I'm going to put 75 grams of water in here and then 75 grams of whole wheat flour, okay? 100% whole wheat flour. It's going to be the best way to kind of kickstart any of this kind of culture. So we will eventually convert it over to a white flour culture and or just maintain it at a whole wheat culture as well. You can create a rye culture. We can do anything we want. But initially what I'm going to do today is just start what is going to eventually become my white sourdough culture. All right. So room temperature water, approximately 75 degrees, even on up to 80 degrees would be more than enough. Thankfully I live in the Tampa Bay, Florida area, so my water coming out is pretty much about that temperature. If you do need to, I didn't show you, but get a thermometer. The reason you need is that you can't just put cold water in, you can't just put hot water in. It needs to be in a certain range. So if you're not confident by being able to know approximately the temperature, please do get a thermometer out and use that. When we do start mixing doughs and we start going through that process, I will be using a thermometer as well, because not only for the water, not only for the mixing, but also post-mixing what the dough temperature is, all right? So today, this water is at about 75 degrees right now, and I'm just looking for 75 grams All right. Tear it again. All right, and then I'm just going to put some whole wheat flour in there right now. This wasn't pre-measured, so this is actually just me measuring it. Perfect. I'm just using a spoon. You can use your fingers, your hand. We will be doing most things by hand, so eventually that's going to be the case. But since it's such a small container, I just use my hand. Now, so this is the same amount of water as the same amount of flour. So depending on the container you have, you can do 50 grams and 50 grams. You can do 100 grams and 100 grams. It's just a ratio. It's a 1-to-1 ratio that we're going to be doing today. All right. After you mix this, okay, and you're going to let it sit overnight, and you're going to check it tomorrow. Here I was able to start a culture last week, which I'll show you in future episodes, that it only took me about 3 days to really get this thing going. But after the very first day, this thing was most definitely getting active, okay? Very cool thing. You don't need to buy any commercial yeast. This is merely just adding flour and water, and the natural bacteria that's in the air is available to you to use. All right. We will go into again, much more explanation as to what our sourdough cultures in other episodes, but this is just for today's introductory instructional video. So there we go. And that's it. This is going to sit, okay, room temperature. I would put a plate under it, okay? I'm not going to use this plate, but let's say using that as a plate. Put it under there because there is a potential over the next day and even on the second day when we do feed it a second time that this may be overflowing. So just in case your container's not large enough, that way it doesn't kind of dirty up your cabinet. Thank you for watching the first of this series of instructional videos on how to make and bake professional baked goods at home. I hope you enjoyed it, and please subscribe to our channel. You can also find us at my family's bakery's website, which is kingdombread-tampa.com, where not only these videos will be uploaded, but also there's several references that you can do that'll link you to other websites that show you, much of what we've been talking about today. Thank you so much.